Chapter 8, Arrays, Part 3. In this example, we're going to show some array being used to to score ratings of food. So we have the responses, 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, and so on and so forth. Okay, usually we'll get them one at a time. Note that the last one here is 14. It's kind of weird, but we'll deal with that later. New int size 6, so we're going to skip 0 again, and our answers go from 1 to 5, and we're going to skip number 0. We'll have an array, we'll have a frequency of 0, we're just not going to use it. For int answer equals 0, answer is less than responses dot length, answer plus plus. So answer is our counter that we're using to go through the array. So frequency, which is our array size 6, frequency is counting how many 1s, how many 2s, how many 3s, how many 4s, how many 5s. So frequency bracket responses square answer. So this is 1 or 2 or 5 or 4. So frequency 1, increment it. When I get a 2, frequency 2, increment it, and so on and so forth. Try and catch. Ooh, we'll learn about that later on. This is going to help us not to have errors if we try and access some part of our array that doesn't exist, like the 7th one. There are not 7, there are only 6. So we did get an error. The 14 gave us an error. But other than that, 3, 4, 8, 2, and 2. So we'll learn about try and catch later on. Just enough to know that it's a way to catch errors. And we caught one because 14 did not fit. Okay, we tried to say frequency square bracket 14, didn't go up that high, and we didn't crash though, so that's good. Let's take a second to look at this. When a C# program executes, array element indices are checked for validity. Okay, so this basically says at execute time, at runtime, we're going to see if we crash or not at compile time. Any attempt to access an element outside the range gives us an exception. This is bounds checking, exception handling. So this is how we caught that error. The error was index out of range exception. So exception is something in the program that we don't expect. Okay, the exception to the rule, the strange thing that happens. Okay, exception, it doesn't happen often, but it might happen. So we want to handle our exceptions. We want to catch them. We want to be prepared for them. We want to not crash. Okay, in the best case, the program will continue running as if we didn't have any problems at all. All right. Sometimes they might have to stop, notify the user, give a little example, a little explanation, and then exit. It's called throwing an exception. Okay, that's why we have this try and catch, because we're saying it throws an exception. We're going to catch the exception. So this is the try and catch statement. We have a try block and a catch block. They're blocks because they have curly brackets around them. So here's the example. Oh, not quite yet. So we got a problem when we had the 14 in our array that only goes up to 5. So the 14 was going to say, hey, put this in the 14th element of the array. And the program said, I don't have 14 elements, I only have 5. We're going to crash, all right? But since we were doing try and catch, we tried this thing. We're like, oh, it's going to crash. And then we caught it. Okay, so the catch block caught the exception. it have a parameter EX which gave us a message, and everything was hunky-dory. The catch block handles exceptions of the specified type, that is the exception parameter. Inside the catch block, we can use the parameters identifier. In other words, we can give the user a little more friendly message than they would normally get. Don't use negatives, don't go past the end of the array, and then you won't have this error in the first place. Okay, the exception object had a message property. If we went back far enough, can we go back? So in the catch, we did a write line of ex.message. Ex was the exception. It's an object and it has a property message back to forward. So we use that. Card shuffling. Again, this is an example. We're not gonna do this example today. We could. It's just gonna count how many cards we have. We're gonna skip this example. The code is there. You can look at it on your own if you choose. We're going to look at the for each statement. Okay, this is like a for statement, but in the for statement, we have to give it the initial variable, the condition, we have to increment it, we have to do all that stuff. For each takes an array and says, do it for the whole array. Do it for each element in the array. We have to have a type, in other words, like int. This is like a temporary variable, the identifier, in the array. Do a thing, okay? Our thing can be one line or it can be a bracket of multiple lines, just like with the regular for statement. For each is very cool, okay? I learned about it in C#. I don't think it exists in plain old C or C++. I think this is only exists in C#. The type, okay, this identifier here, this temporary variable, has to match the type of the array, obviously. And it goes in order from the 0th element to the last element of the array. So we're going to see an example here that's calculating, it's doing some math. For each only works with array elements and it only works with reading them. We can't change them. So we have here an array of integers. There are this many. Here they are. It does a total for each int number. Okay. Int has to match the type of the array. Int number, this is a new temporary variable. It's only going to exist in here. For each int number in array is the name of the array. Do this one statement. Okay, again, we could have curly brackets and more than one statement, but we only have one. Total, which was 0, plus equals. Total equals the total plus the new number. And we're at 849, just like we got a couple examples ago. Passing arrays and array elements to methods. Okay, we pass them. We're really not passing things to methods yet, but we pass the name of the array without any brackets at all. You can read about this if you want. We can pass just one element, okay, just like you would think. We pass the array and the square brackets and the number within. And this is an example about passing arrays and array elements. And once again, if this is not, this is a little advanced for the lesson that we're trying to do today. We don't really dwell on this very much. There's not any homework about references. So we're going to go kind of quick here. Passing arrays by reference, passing arrays by value. If you learned C language, you would learn way more about references and values and pointers, but we're going to just fly right past here today and know that the reference is really the address of a variable. If we pass the reference, we're saying this is my address. Go ahead, change it if you need. Okay. When we pass just the value, we're just passing the value. We're saying here's the value. Don't do anything with it. All right. So we're not going to really dwell on references during values. That's a little advanced for this class. So here is one more example, and I've been going for 11 minutes. So I'm going to pause this video one more time, and we'll be back again with another